Hi, I'm J. Rachel Edidin.
And I'm Miles Stokes.
And we're the hosts of Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men, a weekly podcast all about the ins, the outs, and the retcons of our very favorite superhero soap opera.
We're also the hosts of Rachel and Miles Review the X-Men,
which you're watching right now,
where we talk about the X-books that come out each week.
Now, this is sort of a very special episode. We are recording from Miles's old bedroom, Miles's childhood bedroom in Sarasota, Florida, where we are visiting family this week. He used to have more posters, but I guess, I don't know, I guess Xander isn't a Metallica fan?
I guess so. That was also a number of years ago, like a lot.
Just
like,
a few.
A disturbing lot.
What, like 15?
Something along
15-ish.
those lines. So, yeah, we're here. It's super surreal. Florida's been super surreal.
There is still totally a height chart on the doorframe, though.
There is. It's true.
Your mom is on it, too, and it's the cutest thing.
I've been short for a long time, turns out. So, yes, but the X-books do not stop flowing just because we travel. So I think we have 3 of them this week, right?
Right, and I should add that we are both really tired, and we've also only been reading these digitally, and I at least usually read them physically and put Post-it notes in, so this is messing with my whole note-taking system.
We might even be reviewing the wrong issues. We might be reviewing some kind of a weird DC grim and gritty New 52 thing and not even realize it.
And I drove 2 hours today.
It's true. But we persevere because we love you. And
that's the only
reason.
We
love X-Men, yes.
No, screw the X-Men.
All of them?
I don't care about anything anymore.
Oh, well...
It's Florida. I'm turning into high school me. I'm just going to go sit in the corner and I'm going to listen to Fear Factory with big headphones.
Jay really tried to be a scary goth, but Jay was a
I
cute
was
goth.
Terrifying.
Fierce.
I was a terrifying and imposing figure.
Let's talk about some comics. First up is Extraordinary X-Men number 3, written by Jeff Lemire with pencils by Humberto Ramos, inks by Victor Olazaba, and colors by Edgar Delgado. And man, I gotta say, this is really weird being in my old bedroom. I haven't been here in ages.
I think this is actually the room where I first read X-Men.
Oh, geez, milestone.
Yeah, like, I remember distinctly sitting on the floor right by the bookshelf that used to be here with a copy of X-Men Alpha.
Why did I start you on Age of Apocalypse? Why did I think that was a good place to start?
We made a lot of really bad decisions in this room.
And some good ones.
High five.
Bam. Okay, right, so Extraordinary X-Men number 3. So number 3 was kind of like number 2 and number 1 for me, which is to say it's pretty good.
Yeah, this is still not picking up, and 3 issues in, that's worrisome. The first 2 I could attribute to slow start. By now, I feel like it should have grabbed me in a way that it really hasn't yet. Yeah,
now that said, I mean, there is definitely some cool stuff. There's some good elements in this book, and the what's unique to number 3, what hasn't really happened before, which is to say Old Man Logan and young Jean Grey interacting, that I think does have the seeds of something very cool. These are both characters that are not the primary versions of themselves. They're each from kind of alternate timelines. It's complicated. And I think that's where this book could really be interesting, adding some wild cards to the traditional X-Men mix and sort of seeing what happens.
I am having a lot of trouble with Lemire's young Jean.
Really?
I'm hoping that as we see her in more contexts and with more characters, I'm going to like her more. Right now, she's really not grabbing me. She's got kind of generic protagonist syndrome going, especially contrasted with Logan. And I think, some of this has to be a product of how expressively Ramos draws Logan's face, too. And Jean is good, but not quite there. And so the contrast with that kind of underlines the contrast in the writing.
See, for me,
it's just not there for me.
That and the art really works. So Humberto Ramos, one of those, he's got a very exaggerated art style, kind of like Chris Spicciolo, in a way that I really enjoy. I've liked Ramos's work on X-Men before, and so I like that Old Man Logan is just this mess of, wrinkles and angles and grizzle.
I love his face. I love how gnarly and detailed his face is.
Right, and specifically I like that in contrast with Jean, who's got a much smoother, softer, simpler face. Although she does have a scrunchy nose when she gets mad, which I think is really cool. But so for me, that kind of that type of exaggeration in art really can show story elements in a way that works better than just describing them, sometimes even just showing those personality traits or themes or tones or whatever through dialogue. So with that, I'm actually really, really digging that aspect of the art on this book.
What do you think of the story so far?
Well, there hasn't really been much of a story so far, to be honest. We're still in the getting the team together stage, 3 issues in, which, a team like the X-Men, I figure, that's been done so many times, I don't know that that's really necessary. And so it feels a little repetitive. I mean, I like the idea of, spoilers, X-Haven being in limbo. that's interesting, that's
It's a
novel.
terrible choice.
It's a terrible plan on the X-Men's part, because, like, Magic gets knocked unconscious and all of a sudden all the demons attack. Like, seriously? You guys had one person who could keep hell itself, sort of, limbo, at bay, and you send her out on away missions? Like, are you not seeing the problem with this? It's like how
Miles, these are the X-Men. Their levels of, like, critical and tactical decision-making are somewhere around Night Elves.
Yes, that's true. So that's a little weird, but it's also interesting. I mean, the X-Mansion in Limbo fighting off demons, there is something fundamentally awesome about that, and I do appreciate that.
I think I'd have more fun with it if the book had more fun with it. Part of the problem with how slowly this has been unfolding, with the degree of decompression, is it takes away the urgency. Mm-hmm. It takes this fight, and it's just, I mean, I'm getting bored with a bunch of new X students and Iceman taking his clear first steps towards awesome ice wizarddom. You know, fighting demons desperately, and I'm bored. I shouldn't be bored by this. This shouldn't be boring. The art is strong, the panel-to-panel writing is strong, but nothing feels important. We get a little bit more information, specifically about what Cyclops did that was so terrible, but again, nothing really that substantial. Yeah, this book just isn't justifying itself to me, and I feel bad for that, but it's not, man, I want it to be good.
Well, we did have some readers mention on our website in the comments that Lemire and some of the other arcs he's written did have a very slow start as he got the team assembled, and things then got stronger there. And we've certainly seen some incredibly good work from Lemire outside of superhero books. So, once again, I'm remaining optimistic. At the very least, I think this will read quite well in trade paperback. But issue to issue, it's a little rough right now. You know, we were waiting for number 3. We were going to see what that looked like. I guess we'll wait for number 4.
How long do we give it?
Well, because we review everything, theoretically forever. But for someone who's not a comics reviewer, you know, that's kind of up to you. I do think, though, that with any title, always finish out the first introductory arc and get the first issue of the second arc if it's a book you're interested in. And I would definitely say that for this one.
I gotta say, though, if we weren't reviewing any issue, this is one where I would be waiting for the trade. It's obviously a long-form story, and serialization is doing it no favors. Next up is All New X-Men number 1. Written by Dennis Hopeless, penciled by Mark Bagley, inked by Andrew Hennessy, colored by Nolan Woodard. Man, I like this book.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything that we complained about with regards to Extraordinary, I feel like this is kind of doing the opposite. It starts off so strong. It gets the band together in one issue. It establishes the main plot, I think, of the first arc in an issue. It seeds a huge amount of material. It gives us a huge amount of working information. And it does it really, really appealingly. That's not surprising. I mean, between Hopeless and Bagley, group of teenage superheroes on our road trip in a comic where, you know, as with season 1, while the framing is superhero stuff, the real focus of it is the coming-of-age interpersonal story. Like, this could not be more in a creative team's wheelhouse.
Yeah. And one of the things I really like, okay, so we first became aware of Dennis Hopeless's work through X-Men Season 1, which is, of course, a retelling of the Silver Age origin of the X-Men, the characters all being very new. Mm-hmm. And I really like how in this book, those are very clearly both the same characters and not the same characters. They could easily be characters, you know, who were plucked from the past right after X-Men Season 1, but they've also clearly been through all the stuff Bendis put them through. They've been in the present day in the mid-2010s for a while now, and that's changed them, and they've grown and they've changed, and that's great.
By the same token, I think that's part of what makes Bagley such a good fit for the book. Artistically, he feels like a really, really natural continuation of the art style established in Bendis's All New X-Men Season 1, or not All New X-Men Season 1, oh my god. In Bendis's All New X-Men, specifically, I think the artist he reminds me the most of from that, by far, is Sarah Pichelli.
Yeah, okay.
He's got that same expressiveness, but again, is fresh enough and stylistically specific enough to really feel new to the book. I've got one gripe, and it's a technical gripe, and it's a really boring technical gripe.
I'm intrigued.
Okay, so it really, really bugs me that there are 2 sets of caption narration in 2 different styles from the same character. Admittedly, they're contextually different. One of them is writing, and one of them is just thought caption narration. But I had to flip back and forth to double check that it was the same character and was supposed to be. And it pulled me out of the book in ways that it doesn't feel necessary. I feel like there should have been a way around that.
So let's talk a little about the plot, because yes, it's a road trip, but there's a little more to it. I'm curious what your thoughts were on the Ghosts of Cyclops.
I thought it was a good premise. I think it's obviously, if not deliberately, harkens back and takes a cue from the Omega Gang.
Yeah, Kid Omega stuff, Quentin stuff. To clarify, the Ghosts of Cyclops are basically kind of mutant, criminal, rebel kids who all wear Cyclops' X mask.
Are they mutants? I think they're Inhumans.
I got the impression they were mutants.
It could go either way.
Well, regardless, one thing I really do like about it is in the art, you can see the outlines of their eyes underneath the X where you never could with Scott, and I think that's a really cool distinction. That's a nice little touch right there.
Well, and they're partial masks. Like, they're very obviously sort of the homemade version. I think putting Cyclops up against the social ramifications of his dead adult self's actions, like, the best Cyclops stories are generally Cyclops against his own issues, incarnated in some form.
Or the Master Mold, but I guess that was really just a
Master
manifestation
Mold.
of his own issues, metaphorically anyway.
Oh man,
so.
remember that time he made a bunch of Sentinels go fight the sun?
That was great.
That was so good.
Good work, Scott.
Anyway, this is a great way to kind of externalize that. I think it's clever. I think it's really interesting, and I think it's giving Hopeless and Bagley a chance to explore a conflict that's been building but got largely backburnered by Cyclops going off and hanging out in space during most of the last series. I think it's fun, and I really, oh my god, I love the characterization just across the board in this book. I really love that Kid Apocalypse collects shoes, like that, collects sneakers. That is like my detail of the issue that I'm just sort of honing in on weirdly.
Yeah, there's so many great little character touches, like the fact that, of course, Hank in his TARDIS-like RV thought to have a slushy maker. Of course he did.
Yeah, because Iceman's his best friend. That's actually, oh god, the Iceman Beast dynamic in this.
Yeah, perfect.
And the awkwardness of it, and the extent to which Hank is kind of trying to find a new normal, and none of the X-Men are quite there for it.
I mean, I will say, I think that any O5 story is going to live and die by the quality of the dynamic between Beast and Iceman. This one nails it.
Yeah. I am disappointed between what Extraordinary X-Men isn't doing and All New X-Men is. I understand that there are very strong reasons not to have Jean Grey in this book, but I am really, really sorry to not see her in the hands of this creative team.
True. Although, having Wolverine, Edie, and Evan as characters there, in her absence, they're all great choices. I think they're going to be all three great additions to the cast.
Yeah, I love this book already, and I'm really, really looking forward to issue 2.
Finally, we have Deadpool and Cable Split Second, number 4, by Fabian Nicieza, with art by Riley Brown, inks by Jay Leaston and Jeremy Freeman, and colors by Jim Charalampidis. Something like that? Anyway, so you know how we really liked Split Second number 3? Like, it was a really fun, snappy, entertaining issue? Yeah, number 4 is kind of back where number 1 and 2 were, which is to say, A, it's very specifically a Deadpool story, way more than it's a Deadpool and Cable story, and B, it's just sort of fine.
I actually accidentally knitted my review of this in advance.
Oh, really?
Can I share it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's I think the fact that it's only half of one also is appropriate.
Your crafts are the best crafts.
I need to practice lettering, Fair Isle lettering.
Well,
but that also, the fact that it's only half means that it's technically YouTube compliant, so.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say it's quite as bad as that half Fair Isle knit thing. That's the thing. This
Hey, look. I know I'm still getting some of the pearls back.
Yeah.
I'm proud of that, man. Those stitches are very even.
It's a very good half profanity.
Damn Skippy.
Yes. Anyway, so...
You know it's not very good?
This issue?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing is, if you're a Deadpool fan, I think you're going to like this a lot more. I mean, Jay and I have established ourselves as not Deadpool fans.
I like Deadpool sometimes. I like Deadpool when Deadpool's in strong stories. I think he's a good hook. Tina did a very good job of justifying him in the zine.
True.
And I was, to some extent, won over. I don't like Deadpool when he is boring, when he's a one-beat joke, which is what he is in this issue.
Yeah.
Twice.
That's the thing. I mean, this issue, for plot reasons, sidelines Cable almost completely. In fact, Deadpool comments at one point that Cable fans are going to be very disappointed with this issue.
All 5 of them?
All 4 of them.
4 of them. So the other 2 of you out there, solidarity.
Yeah. And then it adds, like, another Deadpool. So,
You just spoiled a major twist. Oh, it's supposed. That's the thing. It's not a twist. It's completely obvious from the start of the issue. I don't even feel bad about this.
I actually thought it was obvious in the last panel of the last issue.
That's actually an excellent point.
Yeah. But, okay, so I don't want to just crap all over this book, because it is certainly competently written, competently drawn.
I like the art, actually.
Yeah,
the art is
good.
I wish that it made more use of the Infinite Comics medium.
Mm-hmm. Although it does do a cool little, like, movie-style opening credit sequence at the beginning. I thought that was pretty rad. That's something each issue of this has done. But the problem with Infinite Comics is they're generally roughly half issue length. And what that means is you're getting something very bite-sized, and if it's not a bite-sized, very engaging chapter, then it's not going to work as well as a single issue. Maybe in the eventual, Infinite Comic Marathon that someone might do later, or physical trade reading they might do later, it'll be just fine. But the fact is, not a lot happens in this issue, and the sort of cleverness and humor that was found in number 3 was limited to number 3.
Writers, artists, you gotta pace for your format.
Mm-hmm.
If you are writing a serial, you need to pace for a serial. If you're writing a serial in even shorter segments, you need to pace for that, or it will kill your story.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, you could have done this better. Do this better next time.
That said, I mean, overall the series has been fun, and given that we're not particularly Deadpool fans, we've certainly found a lot to enjoy in it. So, not the strongest issue, but overall, still looking pretty decent. Okay, those are our 3 books coming to you from sunny, far too sunny, South Florida.
Oh my god, it's been in the 80s.
Yeah.
In December. This is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. It's alright, we'll be back to the freezing rain of Portland, Oregon in just a few days.
Gray misery.
Yes. Okay, so, best of.
Well, I think our pick of the week is pretty obvious. That is All New X-Men #1.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really strong start to the series by a really strong creative team. I can't wait to see where it goes, and I'm already enjoying it a lot.
Seriously. Killer #1. Looks like it's going to be a killer series.
What's our panel of the week?
Our panel of the week is actually from Extraordinary X-Men #3. I believe we talked a bit in our review about how Humberto Ramos's exaggerated art style can really do a lot of good show-don't-tell work in terms of storytelling. And I think that's nowhere more evident than in this panel right here, with Old Man Logan and Young Jean Grey right up against each other, contrasted. I mean, we have Logan, who is this like grizzled, furry earth elemental, fire plug chainsaw sculpture of a guy.
Right, like this face is why the phrase rough-hewn exists.
Right. And he's right up against this sort of fresh-faced, almost unrealistically smooth, very young-looking, I'm not going to say innocent, but certainly young, face of Jean Grey. And I mean, she's got this kind of sharp, cynical little bits of idealism coming out through the cynicism, and he's just an old, tired man that doesn't want to deal with anything. And those faces tell that story just as well as the plot. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching.
If you like what you've seen here, but think it would be way better if you couldn't see our faces, please listen to our podcast, Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men. New episodes go up every Sunday at rachelandmiles.com, also on iTunes and Stitcher, and we are starting something pretty big this week.
We are indeed. This next episode is the first episode of our coverage of The Fall of the Mutants, the second X crossover, and now we're 2 for 2 on super depressing X crossovers, so yay! This one's going to be about the X-Men and their fight against the adversary, which I gotta say is pretty freaking sweet.
Are there any not depressing X crossovers? They tend to be pretty bleak.
Give me a second. Anyway, yes, so these reviews, our podcast, everything we do on our site, all sorts of X stuff done by the two of us, that's all made possible by our generous Patreon subscribers.
If you would like to join those fine folks in making this stuff happen, I guess not this stuff, that's all, Florida, you can do that at the link either above or below this video, depending on where you're watching it.
In the meantime, we will see you next week when we're back in Portland.
Thank God. Someone's going to catch the Assassin's reference and be so happy.
I didn't know there was an Assassin's reference. Terrifying and imposing figure.
I'm not telling you. If you don't know, you don't deserve it.
Well, there you go.